My stepmom uninvited me to family events because of my kid's speech delay. The title makes it sound worse than it is. I really believe she did it with good intention. But I'm having a hard time moving our already struggling relationship forward, and I need some third-party thoughts and perspectives. Here are the details. A few months ago, I met her for coffee with my 2 kids. I've been struggling pretty hard with my mental health, and self-isolation is my go-to, so we haven't been visiting much. This means the kids were excited to see her. They're 2 and 5, so there was lots of excited chatter while they talked over one another and ignored the existence of conversational skills. It was a quick-ish visit, but it all seemed to go well enough. She called the next day and suggested I skip the upcoming family dinner. She said that it was my choice in the end, but she knows I've been dealing with mental health issues, and she didn't want me to come to the dinner and feel so judged about 5's speech delay that I never wanted to come back. I was floored. It felt completely out of the blue. She went on about how the kids were so hard to understand, and how beside other young kid in the family, it would be really obvious how bad 5's speech was. Most of the family hasn't seen 5 since they were around 3, just bad luck with event timing and lockdowns, kindergarten germs, exposure, etc. But she was worried about how everyone would take it, that it would be such a surprise for everyone, etc., etc. I explained that I give all the new adults we meet a simple heads up that 5 can sometimes be a bit hard to understand, and that explaining it isn't a big deal. I even offered to write up a heads-up email to everyone so they weren't so surprised. She really liked that idea. But then I got over my shock and got kind of mad. I explained that 5's speech delay is physiological, tongue and lip ties, and it's not some moral failing on my part like she was treating it. And on top of that, 5 has been in private speech therapy for over a year and has done a fabulous job improving. Those reminders seemed to bring her back a bit. And she remembered that one of the adults is in a field parallel to speech therapy. And of course they would understand and recognize that it isn't a personal failure. And I was right. It would probably be fine. She was overthinking it. I told her I appreciated the call. I appreciated the heads up. And that I was disappointed it was a conversation she felt we needed to have. I opted out of the dinner and haven't been to another gathering. I've been isolating way more, and we haven't spoken much since. I want to open communication again, but I don't know how to express what I'm feeling, or if I just drop it. I was so hurt by the call, and the fact I had to defend myself. Explained to her that I hadn't neglected my kid into a speech delay. I felt so much shame over the whole thing. And somehow she didn't see anything wrong with the rest of the family being so judgmental. I'd never want to come back. After sitting on it for a while, it really verified for me how that side of the family must still see me, a loser black sheep weirdo that probably never read to her kid and now they have a speech delay. And all those times I left family events as a kid, teen, young adult, feeling like a teensy tiny speck. I wasn't just imagining it. I spent so much time convincing myself it was just me. They're good people that love me, that I was projecting my insecurity, because no one ever said anything obviously rude, but I left those get-together feeling bad about myself more often than not. And this phone call just validated all of that in one painful cafump. I'm so torn up about it all. I want the relationship because she wants the relationship, and she's the only parent I've had that's taken their parenting duties seriously. Please help me see a way forward. I'm so bloody alone. And I know she cares about me, but I don't know how to have a relationship with her without feeling bad about myself. As a double kick in the teeth side note, 2 days after this call, the school-assigned SLP called to tell me that after 18 months on the wait list, 5 is no longer eligible for support because they're doing too well. They're 85% understandable and making only age-appropriate errors. AITA for getting a family blacklisted by all their local babysitters. I've recently taken up babysitting to make some extra money while I'm studying at college. It's a lot of fun, and I love kids, so it's no hardship for me. And while I've had a few bad experiences, it's nothing that I've not been able to handle until a few days ago. I was babysitting for a couple while they went out to celebrate their anniversary. It went great. Their toddler was sweet if a little out of it. The reason for that became clear later as she was clearly unwell and began to throw up. I took care of her and comforted her while trying to contact her parents, but there was no answer on the number they left behind. Not great, but she seemed fine if a bit weepy, so I went back to comforting her. Later on, however, she kept being sick and her temperature was beginning to spike. I tried to call them again, but there was no answer, and at this stage I was getting worried, so I called the out-of-hours doctors. They tried to tell me I couldn't bring her down as not family, but I explained the situation and how I couldn't contact them, and I was panicking, and they told me to bring her down. I fired them a text explaining what was going on, but also figuring they were having phone troubles, wrote a note and left it on the table. I was out at the doctor's 3 hours with her, and by the time we got back to the house we were both exhausted and smelly from where she'd threw up on both of us at one stage. I cleaned us off as best as I could in the toilets at the doctor's, but gave her a bath, changed her into fresh PJs, and gave her the medicine the doctor had given me for her. Once she was asleep, I took a quick shower myself and changed into the spare clothes I keep in my car for emergencies. When her parents returned, I filled them in on what had happened and what the doctor had said, and that I'd bathed and changed her before getting her settled, and that I'd taken a shower myself. They weren't apologetic at all and said their phone must have been on silent. They then paid me, and I left, and they acted very casual about the whole mess as if it hadn't been a night from hell for me. I will admit I was kind of upset and stressed still, so when I got home I texted 2 of my friends who also babysit and warned them to not sit for that family. It had a bit of a domino effect as they ended up telling their friends who told their friends and so on. I had no idea the scale it had reached until I got a call from the mother today demanding to know what I'd said and why no sitter will agree to watch her daughter this Saturday. I didn't intend for it to reach this scale, and I'm a bit in shock, wondering if maybe I went too far. AITA.
AITA for asking for my sweater back from the girl my mom donated it to. My paternal grandma who passed away made me a sweater that I love, but my mom hates it to the point where she forbidden me from wearing it outside of the house. It's a brown, blue and white sweater that is uniquely designed and is something that not everyone would have the taste for. But every time I wear the sweater, I can almost feel the warmth of my grandma, and it also slightly smelled like her. When I came back home from a friend's house, I discovered that my sweater was missing. My mom said when I asked her about it that I must just misplaced it. My mom is an active member of the church, and the church that we go to has an outreach program there where food, lightly used and new clothes and other necessities are donated to people in need. Fast forward a week or so, I go to school, and this girl who's known as the quiet kid was wearing my sweater in the cafeteria, so I naturally go up to her and confront her. I'll be honest, I am quite popular at my school and confronted her with 2 of my friends who are also pretty well liked at our school. So I likely did come off as intimidating, especially to someone who usually is very quiet and keeps to themselves. When I confronted her, I said that I liked her sweater and asked her where she got it to, which she mumbled something under her breath that I couldn't understand. So I asked again and she said it was donated. I asked her where and she reluctantly said the church, and I instantly knew then what my mother has done. I told her that the sweater was mine and that it was stolen from me, and that the right thing for her to do is return it to me. She didn't want to at first because it was chilly outside, but ended up complying after I offered to get her a new sweater by the end of the day, which I ended skipping class to do so, and got her more than just a sweater. When I returned home, I returned wearing my sweater, which my mom was unhappy to see. She asked me how I got the sweater back, and I explained to her that I seen somebody wearing it at school and asked them to return my sweater. She looked shocked and angry and told me that she couldn't believe that I was so obsessed with that hideous thing, that I'd even take it from somebody in need whom she donated it to. I told her that I can't believe she'd give away something that she sees as pure trash to somebody in need and still call it charity. She told me to shut up and called me ungrateful, to which I replied that she had no right to steal and donate my personal belongings. She said since I'm living under her roof, she can do whatever she wants to my belongings, and told me she would be reducing my allowance until I decide to part ways with the sweater. I don't know if I was being in a hole in this situation, but will certainly give back the sweater even though it saddened me to see it go. Am I the asshole?
AITA for not backing up my husband when he ordered our adult daughter go to her room. My husband and I have a 22-year-old daughter, Sienna, that lives with us while she attends college. Sienna and I have always been very close. We're a lot alike, share similar interests, etc. We're also both very stubborn. I've always been okay with her voicing her opinions, challenging me, etc. I don't want her to blindly respect me. We occasionally have a tiny tiff or whatever, but we always make up rather quickly. My husband grew up in a very different household. He never would have questioned his mother, even as an adult. They never had any arguments and rather just kept everything bottled in. It's been very hard for him to accept that it's healthy for Sienna to voice her opinions and to not blindly accept our word before anyone asks. He has refused therapy and I don't see him budging on the issue. My husband often gets irritated when Sienna and I have a disagreement, telling us both to stop. He doesn't want to hear it, etc. I've told him before this is healthy communication. Sienna doesn't speak to him that way out of respect, knowing he doesn't want to have that kind of dynamic, so it shouldn't matter if she does it with me. Again, we've had several discussions with him about respecting our relationship and how it works. Also keep in mind, Sienna and I are not arguing heavily every day. We may just have a minor disagreement or we'll roll our eyes at one another, joke around, etc. a few times a week. Last night, we sat down for dinner. Sienna was in a bit of a mood as she had a bad day at school. She had already told me she didn't want to talk about it, so I was respecting her. She ended up getting a little snappy when I asked her if she wanted to do something. I just told her there were better ways of answering that and she rolled her eyes. I was ready to let it go when my husband jumped in and told Sienna to go to her room for being disrespectful. She said she's an adult and he said she lives rent-free in his house. She needs to listen. I told him that I didn't mind and he said that he didn't want to hear this attitude. I asked him to leave the table with me and we went in the other room. I once again pointed out that I didn't mind Sienna being a little short with me, as I get why. I also said I know she and I will discuss it later and she'll apologize. We all have bad days. He said he's tired of hearing us squabble and her talk to me like this. I said I'm tired of him trying to control my relationship with her. By his own admission, Sienna won't talk to him that way. So why does it matter? I said Sienna wasn't going to her room unless she wanted to. End of discussion. In the end, my husband went up to our room. He hasn't spoken to me since and things are a little tense. AITA? Tense.